because like once you like start going on YouTube, like you
Hmm.
see that there's a lot of fluff, like
Yeah.
just a lot of shit that just leads you to buy the program, that leads you to buy another fucking program, to buy another. I'm like, bro, like where's the content? Like,
Yeah.
and it's so hard to dissect what's real and what's not, and like that's what I was having trouble with, like in the first year was like, where do I get my information? Like, how do I get to the top with trying to figure this all out? So, I mean, I did pretty good because of like audiobooks, but
Hmm.
it like I learned sales because of like the program, like this stuff, like
Yeah.
that's what helped me get from like maybe 30-40% of the floor to like now top 15, but I'm trying to get to top 5.
Walk talking like a boss, I just lift a hand. 3 million cash, call me Rain Man. Money like a shower, that's my rain dance.
Again, I've only been in the industry for 2 years,
Yeah.
so I don't know market cycles. I don't know the state of the industry. I don't know,
Sure.
on a higher level.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I'm always asking like the veterans, like, yo, like, what's going on with rates? Like,
Yeah.
is this, secure? Like, am I gonna be straight? Should I be thinking of doing something else? Like,
Yeah.
that's what's always going on in my mind because I hear like horror stories of 2008,
Yeah.
2009 when people had all this money, they think that they could buy houses, they can provide, and all of a sudden the shit goes to shit, and then now they don't know what to do. And I'm just like trying to understand that before I make big financial decisions like buying a house,
Sure.
or things like that. Is I just want to make sure I'm on the right path,
Yeah.
not to set my family up for failure,
Yeah.
and then like think like, oh shit, what did I get myself into,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm trying to figure out, like, am I supposed to be doing something on the side, like how you're doing this on the side?
Hmm.
Like, am I supposed to, I always wanted to be in real estate. That's how I actually got into the industry.
Okay.
So I was actually like trying to get into be a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Like, should I do that? Like, should I,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
learn purchase? Like, I don't know what to do because like I'm doing pretty good here.
Yeah.
Should I master this
Mm.
and like worry about it later, or am I like being retarded for not thinking that there's other things that I need to be doing
Yeah.
and not just stay focused on one thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's something that a lot of people are trying to figure out. And I actually made some content that was about, some of the veterans talking like in our atmosphere, we're influenced by the words that we hear, right? And so like some of the veterans, even in my place, they'll talk about like, is 2008 happening again? And if you weren't too familiar with what happened in 2008, 2008 was the byproduct of not having the compliance and the regulations that make our job tedious today, right? So in other words, people were being qualified and they didn't have the right credit or income to qualify, and we didn't care about it at the time. So we just wrote the loan, and there's a mass amount of these loans that were done, and ultimately they failed, right? But at the same time, there were no employment, there was no jobs. So it kind of like did a domino effect across all the industries because banks started drying up to give money. They weren't lending. Whereas right now it's the opposite of that. There are more jobs. There's increasing jobs all the time. They're actually making a little bit more lenient with loan programs, and so now they're bringing back programs that are lenient with income, right? So you're starting to see this start to come back, but it's different because the banks are actually stronger, right? And this is why the rates are going up because they've already kind of bounced back. So I guess my answer to you is that it's nothing like 2008. I don't think, in my opinion, and I'm not being biased or anything, like I have
Yeah.
everything I have is in this industry.
Right.
But what keeps me confident is just having your nest egg, right? Like you always got to stack your chips.
Right.
Always work up to have 6 to 12 months of living. So if like you live off 10 G's per month and that's your nut, then you need to have an account with 60 G's in it. And so,
Right.
but it doesn't necessarily need to mean checking and savings, because then that's a fucking, that shit's always calling your name, right? Like, oh man, I got 60 G's in my bank. You always kind of want to live broke under the perception that you're broke. And
Right.
so separating the accounts, knowing that it's there will let you run, will let you be confident. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Whereas if you burn out everything and you kind of, because that's where I was when I was young, you know, before in 2008, when I was in the industry, I had 2 cars, I had a sick ass house, and I was spending money crazy. I didn't care. And a lot of the older people were like, "Hey man, this isn't gonna happen forever." You
Yeah.
know, they're like, "You should buy gold." And man, back then gold was super cheap, and I was like, "Man, fuck that." You know, I made an annual salary last month. You know, it's kind of tough on the
Yeah.
inside, and what I was doing was I was burning it as faster than I can make it. So in other
Yeah.
words, I would spend the money before I even made it. So
Right.
if I close the deal, I'd be like, yeah, I got 3 G's coming my way, and then actually go spend that bitch. But what would
Yeah.
happen is if that shit didn't fund, then I'm fucked.
Right.
Right. And now I'm
Yeah.
like, oh shit, and like something's on fire. So you don't want to operate in that way,
Mhm.
while at the same time try to avoid uh, the kind of the fear of missing out, the FOMO, right? And I think that's kind of what you're going through. Is like, man, am I missing something? Should I be putting more time over here? Should I do this? And that's going to come down to you. It's going to come down to your preference, right? Like me, for example, like I do well over the phone. Like I could probably kill it in the field, but nah, I'm gonna do me, right? Because I'm
Right.
strong in the phone. I'm strong in that environment. And
Yeah.
so if you're saying like, hey man, I want to be a realtor, you have to envision yourself as like, man, do I really want to do all that, right? Like knock on doors
Yeah.
and visit offices or whatever. Like you're in the field a lot.
Right.
And but we might look at it as like, well, at least I'm not trapped in this office for 12 hours, right?
That's expected.
But yes, but it just depends on you. So
Yeah.
everyone's wired different. If that's you and you're naturally gifted, like you love being outside and being with people and you shine, right? Like your energy, like your true self comes out, then that's meant for you. You work towards that path. But if you
Right.
look at that job and you're like, man, I don't know if I could do that, bro,
Yeah.
then
No,
give it some time, put it
that's
on the
right.
back burner.
Right. 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 Yeah. No, I went through it. I went through it. I actually, like everyone was talking to me like this was like last year. I
Yep.
quit my job and went into real estate because it's when the market just like kind of race went up a little bit,
Yeah.
and so a lot of people started quitting. So I was just like, okay, well, I need to do something else because I
Yeah.
didn't know any better.
Yeah.
I went into real estate for 3 months, like not even doing anything really, but just like shadowing.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck this, dude. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to go back to my old job. Like, I cannot do this.
Yeah.
But then what I'm trying to figure out is like, if I just stay consistent, like, and like, is this the worst that it gets? Like right now, because
Yeah.
everyone's talking about like, oh shit, this shit is hard,
Yeah.
but I'm still doing all right. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, if this is the hardest it can get, and I'm doing okay, when the
Yeah.
market, gets better, I'm
Yeah.
gonna kill it.
Yeah.
Like so that's why I'm trying to like figure out, should I just not worry about what people are saying and like
Yes.
block out the noise, because I know that if I just stay grounded and keep trying to be the best at this position,
Yeah.
then I'm gonna do great regardless. Like that's what I'm trying to figure out, because
Yeah.
there's so much noise. Oh, do purchase, or do go into real estate sales, or it's not in refinance no more. Like, oh,
Yeah.
the market's 70% purchase. Like there's all these different things coming
Yeah.
at me. I'm like, dude, I just need to provide. Like I'm trying
Yeah.
to live a certain life,
Yeah.
and I don't want to get stuck, and I
Yeah.
don't want to go back to having to go to school to
Yeah.
get a degree to make
Yeah.
money that I'm not making now. So I don't want to do that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. You may know already right now, or you may not. Do you operate better under pressure?
Meaning what? Like under
Like
these conditions, or pressure meaning like deadlines?
like let's say you bought a house, right? And then your hustle mode would just naturally kick on because you got no plan B. You know what I mean? Like I operate best under pressure. And I think that's probably why, in 2008, like I was just buying shit because I always had to try to keep up. That was my
Right.
pressure back then, but I did it very well. If the banks didn't dry up credit, I still would have been smashing it. Does that make sense?
Right. Right.
So it's kind of like, when you hear in the circle, like, oh man, this shit's hard, but you're doing good, that lets you know that that's just their perspective. So block that
Right.
shit out,
Right.
And again, no one can tell you anything different than what you know, what you believe. So if you
Right.
see that you're yielding the results that you want, fuck all the noise. You know what I mean? Like the
Right.
noise is going to be subjective. It's going to be their opinion. But if you find yourself like, man, like I'm doing good and I could do better if I put myself under pressure, meaning I'm not gonna like ease up, you know. Sometimes that is just the thing you need. Like you need to put yourself under that pressure, like go buy that house. Because what happens when you buy that house isn't no fucking games, bro. Like, oh man, this is the fucking big boy league right here. You know, you see your name on that mortgage, and you know, you had shared with me something that you're gonna experience more and more, because being in real estate, you make a lot of money, you know, and you're gonna make more money than most, and you're gonna hear the way people view money in a different way than you do, you know. The example, I went out to dinner last night with a couple of friends and my wife, and I didn't wear a watch, right? And one of the dudes there, he was a coach, he's a high school coach, but you know, he works like multiple jobs, and he's barely, you know, he's cracking 100,000. And you're like, damn, 100,000, shit, I made like 4 times that amount, and I don't work 4 jobs or 3 jobs, right? And so anyway, he was wearing this Nixon watch. And my wife was like, hey man, that's a nice watch. You know, where'd you get it? And then he looked at it, he's like, oh yeah, it's a Nixon, you know, so he shows the watch. And then my wife saw, oh cool, where did you get it? And then he's all, oh, I would never buy me anything like this because this is just too fancy. I would never spend $600 on a watch, right? And then my wife had a choice, because I got nothing but, I got a gang of Nixon watches. My wife could have said, oh yeah, Daniel has a lot, but she didn't, because it's just viewed at different things, where I thought, you know, you're going to hear these things and it's going to challenge you to think like, man, am I fucking up? You know what I mean? Like, I got a gang of those. Am I losing the reality of what the fucking money is? Right. And in all reality, what reassured me is like, no, I'm not, because I fucking grind for that shit. You see what I'm saying? Like I grind to have that option, because that pushes me. You know what I mean? Like I'm a fucking name brand whore and shit. Like I just like the finer things, but I don't sport Rolexes. I stay within my own lane. Does that make sense? So I'm not buying Gucci flip flops, but I'll buy a nice Nixon fucking watch. You know what I'm saying? It's just the perspective. Whereas like my barber yesterday, right? Like I just got my hair did. I got my hair cut, and my barber was like, he's just 20 years old. He's like, hey man, he was telling the other barber, because you listen to the barbers talk, right? In a barber shop, shit, the best. It's the fucking best, man. And he was telling him like, hey man, I picked up those Gucci sweats, man. And he was like, how much they cost? He's like, $300. And I was thinking in my head like, damn, that's fucking crazy, bro. Because I can only imagine how much you make as a barber. You see what I'm saying? Like I probably make your annual in 1 month, and I don't have $300 Gucci sweats. You see what I'm saying? So, but to each his own, to each their own. And it's interesting because like if we are our worst enemy. You're going to be your worst enemy, right? You're going to think like, oh man, it's that FOMO. It's like, oh man, are you doing this right? But listen to this, listen to that. And the only thing I can tell you is you have to block out and be selective with what noise you let influence you. You see what I'm saying? So like if you hear something, the person you think of going to first, are they the homie, right? Because the homie is going to tell you like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. They're going to consult you. But if you look to a mentor and be like, hey man, what do you think about this? And they tell you the straight, like, man, fuck all that, blah, blah, blah. And you respect that opinion, listen to that. You see what I'm saying? Because they're going through it. Whereas like if your homie who doesn't even work in the industry and they're like, yeah, man, fuck this, because they don't know. Does that make sense? So it's going to be really based on the experience that you take the advice from.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's dope. Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, that's kind of what I was like going through, is like, you know, I have really big months and then I see the check. I'm like, okay, what do I have, you know, to be ungrateful for? You know, like there's a lot of things, you know, people worry about, and, you know, what can I be worried about when I'm in a position where I'm okay? Like I'm not, you know, like I'm not like, you know, where my parents were at, you know, check to check, you know, just struggling to make ends meet. Like it's not like that for me. And so that's why, like, sometimes I'm like, do I need to just chill out and stop like overthinking this and like trying to like, you know, be at the top when, you know, I'm already doing okay. Like, I don't know if that's just me, but like, I want to be at the top. And it's like,
that's good. Don't fight it.
And it's like, I just feel sometimes I'm like, man, I need to like chill. Like,
don't do you, bro. Do you. You know, you want to feel like that because you're surrounded. And I'm not saying anything about your family, your friends, or anything, right? But you're surrounded by a different level. You know, so they're just not at that level. Whereas you have this unique opportunity where you're at that level right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you have a choice to adapt to your circle of friends or family because you feel that, oh, if I go too high, then I'm not going to be, you know, I'm going to be judged by my peoples, right? Like they're going to look at me like I'm bougie. But again, that's just all in our heads. And that fucked with me a lot when I was young. And I think it's just primarily because of experience. But what's awesome is that you're in this market right now. It's not 2008. You know what I mean? You're young and you're with one of the strongest platforms in the fucking world. You know what I mean? When it comes to this shit. And so I guess really what it comes down to is just staying in your lane, just doing what you want. You know what I mean? And it sounds like, you know, your background or what you're going through right now is very similar to what I went through, because I was coming up with people and I still was going to visit my friends and I was the only one dipping in a BMW. You see what I'm saying? They're still borrowing their parents' car. You see what I'm saying? They were still living in an apartment. I just bought a new house. So I learned to reframe myself and become the example for my circle to say, hey man, you got to do this, you got to do that. Some people did it and some people didn't. You know what I mean? But that has nothing to do with me. My only concern was my family, right? My kids. So make sure that they got what they need. So if you feel that you earned a lot of money, then you need to up your liabilities. You know, I'm not trying to put you in a hard spot or whatnot, but make it to a point where you need to make that money. Does that make sense? Because then it shifts your focus of, man, am I making too much? Right? Like maybe I should ease up because I'm getting too high. No, fuck that. Get higher. You see what I'm saying? When I say stick to your lane, like if you say, hey, I want to make 20 and you make 20, say, fuck that. I want to see what would happen if I made 40. You know what I mean? And then continuously challenge yourself. But the best salespeople always going to be the ones who are never happy, who are never settled. And that's just that's the catch-22 of this business. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like the freedom of money will make us happy, but it's weird because we become addicted to the grind. We become addicted to the worry, right? To the stress. And similar, we can become addicted to overthinking shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. And in all reality, people are going to judge, they're going to talk about you, or they're going to say things, you know, that we may take weird. And it's only because you're at a different level, you know, so that to get used to that shit, that's going to happen all the time, bro. And your parents, especially your parents, or your family, are going to tell you all the time, be careful, be careful,
exactly.
Right? Don't spend all your money. It's not going to be this way, but they do it for a good purpose. It's a good cause. It's because they want to protect you and they don't know your industry. But if you wholeheartedly know your industry and you're like, bro, I'm set, I'm good. This is me. You know what I mean? Like, this is my fucking drum. This is my beat. Yeah. Right. Then fly as fucking high as you can, bro. You know what I mean? Position yourself where if you want to kind of like consistency, I mean, you can get into management, you know, if that's something that you want to do, because then you get to rip off your whole team and you do your business. Does that make sense? But you got to become a master of that environment first. You can't juggle too many things. Like, let me try this purchase deal, just purchase business, you know? Because what happens is that there are two different speeds. You know, I did a video on purchase and refinance. And me personally, I hate purchases. You know what I mean? It's just a different speed, but I know that it plays an important role. So I don't turn it down. But fortunately, I know the system enough to where I can delegate whatever tasks eat up a lot of time. So I still do purchases. But you know, only after I became masterful at refinancing can I then talk the language of purchases. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So hopefully, I mean, does that all help, dude? Is that some pretty...
Dude, it does. Like, I can't tell you enough, bro. Like, the shit that you put out is like amazing. Like, it helped. Like, it fucking helped me so much. Like, right when I got into the industry, I was like really trying to figure out like, how the fuck do I get really good at this really quickly, you know? And I was just like fucking listening to sales podcasts, buying audiobooks, reading sales books, watching YouTube videos, and it all helped. Like
Mm-hmm.
all the little things helped, but it wasn't as detailed, like to the T of what you're putting out, like for us,
Yeah.
like it's like a fucking cheat code. Like you just
Yeah.
fucking go straight into it.
Yeah.
And you just tell us how to be a fucking the best LO. Like
Yeah.
it's just from the beginning to the end. And so
Yeah.
that's why it's like, dude, it's great.
Yeah.
It's been great, dude.
It's dope, right? Like if you could execute it, you see, I think a lot of challenges that people are sometimes get stuck in their ways,
Yeah.
and fortunately you caught the content at the time of you getting in this industry because you weren't tarnished by all the bad habits yet.
Right.
And so I think that was, the best opportunity to learn this game. Just be careful with what information you let get into your mind. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Don't let the fear of other people be the reason why you don't get to where you want to go. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I can imagine you probably have your own morning routine, like you got your own little ritual process, right?
Yeah.
And the hardest thing to do is to get out of your own head. And what I found in order to do that is kind of set kind of a map, like where you're going and where you're going. Like I used to do this, right? Like every day, I used to and I got a new notebook because I'm gonna start doing it again. But what I would do is I would write my last year's year to date and what I want my new year to date to be, and then how much I want in liquid savings. And so my numbers were, I remember when I first started it, it was 180 because that was my previous year. And then I put 360. And the entire time I was writing it, I was like, nah, man, there's no way I'm gonna do this shit. This is stupid. Right. And then and for net savings, I was like 100 G's. So every single day I wrote it. Every morning it was a ritual. And psychologically, that's all I focused on. Right. It's just my actions started backing up that thought process. And so weird, but I actually hit it and then I stopped. And then now it's just kind of in this disarray. There wasn't, you know what I mean? Like there's no actual set plan. And the reason why I want to go back to it is because of how it worked. So whether it's like a journal or it's like this daily documented goal, like you could switch it up and be like, yo, I'm gonna be the absolute best for my family, regardless of what it takes. You know what I mean? Just every single day. And so when you hear these negative outputs or people on their own wavelength, it's not fucking with you. You know what I mean? Because you got your own kind of rhythm going on. And I think that's important, especially with the big atmosphere you're in, because you're going to get a lot of different views, a lot of different opinions, and especially from the city. I came from LA. You know what I mean? Like my surrounding right now versus the surrounding in LA, completely different. You know what I mean? Like when I go back to LA, it brings me back to humbleness. Like, oh yeah, this is the grind. These are my peoples, right? I feel most comfortable here, Yeah. But just try to get yourself in a comfortable level in a higher zip code. You know what I mean? It's weird, man, but you got to almost like challenge yourself and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to find a way to get my family to this area or this house or this zip code. And I'm not going to stop until I do that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's why I like really resonate with, your whole background and everything.
Yeah.
It's literally exactly almost identical. Like I lived in Carson and then now I'm living in Long Beach. Yeah. And, went to fucking same fraternity, like while we were 18, didn't even go to that school. Yeah. Like, it's like crazy. Like, I was just like, what the fuck? And then we had a kid 21, I was like, oh my God, this is weird. So I was like, damn, this fool knows what he's doing. So I don't like all that fluff shit because like once you like start going on YouTube, like you see that there's a lot of fluff. Yeah. Just a lot of shit that just leads you to buy the program, then to buy another fucking program, to buy another. I'm like, bro, like where's the content? Like, and it's so hard to dissect what's real and what's not. And like that's what I was having trouble with like in the first year was like, where do I get my information? Like how do I get to the top with, trying to figure this all out? So I mean I did pretty good because of like audiobooks, but it like I learned sales because of like the program, like this stuff, that's what helped me get from like maybe 30-40% of the floor to like now top 15. But I'm trying to get to top 5. Like
Yes.
that's, you know, like where I'm trying to go by the end of the year. Like I have like a set goal that I told my manager like in March. I was like, I'm gonna make that trip, and you know, I was like 60 out of 200 agents,
Yeah.
and he was like, just keep going at it, keep going at it. And so like every 2 weeks, I'm like, where am I at? Where am I at?
Yeah.
And then so like now I'm at like 17.
Nice.
But so I'm like trying by hopefully by September to lock that in. Like I don't want to even be close to like, oh shit, am I gonna make the trip? Am I gonna make the trip? So
yeah, it's got to be done. You know. Yeah.
And people think I'm like fucking retarded. Like, oh, you're doing too much. I'm like, no, dude. Like, have a goal. Like, I'm gonna make that trip.
Yeah, right. You're not doing enough. You should tell them that. Be like, no, bro, you're not doing enough.
Like, you're extra. But I'm like, no, I'm not extra. I'm just trying to do me. I'm trying to get there.
Yeah, man. That you're gonna hear that shit all the time, bro. Like, especially people that are not in your income bracket. They can be like, why you work so hard? You know, like I used to fuck with me because I used to be like, yeah, man, am I a tool? And shit, right? Like, am I a slave for this fucking company? Right. But then, you know, you reframe the way you look at it and be like, why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? Why wouldn't you want this freedom? Why wouldn't you want the option to put your kids in the best school and the best zip code? You know what I mean? Because you and I, like, we grew up in that surrounding. We know the alternative, and that's probably what pushes us is because we know the alternative. You see what I'm saying? The check living. Yeah. You know, I don't want my family to be in that way, and I don't think you want your family being that way. Right. So fortunately, I mean, we got access to the keys that allow us to not let our family live in that way. You know, now it's different when you look at it that way because now it's a fucking obligation. Like, man, I got this opportunity. I'm not going to let it slip by. You see what I'm saying? I'm going to do whatever the fuck I can. I'm going to make as much as I can. Right. And I'm going to position myself with the strongest company, right? And to where I become a veteran. I become the youngest manager, the youngest VP. You see what I'm saying? That is just kind of psychology that will help you continue going, you know? So yeah, man, it was real good, dude. Just like spend some time with you and hear, you know, kind of your side, what you're going through. I'm happy that, you know, we found each other, right? And you found the content and that you're finding good return from it. And it's just a matter of just keep holding yourself higher, man. Just my main piece of advice right now, right here, is just do you. Like, don't overthink shit. Don't let other people's suggestions or opinions fuck with you. You know what I mean? Like, just know what your reality is and know what your motivation is. You know what I mean? Those are the only two things that you should pay attention to.
Walk talking like a boss, I just lift a hand. 3 million cash, call me Rain Man. Money like a shower, that's my rain dance.